So welcome everyone to
Okay.
the Energy Nexus Just Batteries webinar. This is actually our second Just Batteries webinar, and a lot has evolved in the battery space and around the world since then. The title for today is Australia's Time to Charge, Powering the Battery Future. We have a fantastic selection of panelists today to speak to you about Australia's opportunity in the battery and energy storage space. Next slide, please. So just a quick introduction of myself. My name is Andrew Chang, Chief Growth Officer for Energy Nexus. I've been with the organization for 9 years now, really since the inception of New Energy Nexus, and have grown products and programs in East Asia, Southeast Asia, and most recently programs in the UAE, as well as now currently I'm sitting in Tokyo at the moment. Today, we're really excited to really build on the expansion of our programming, particularly our Just Battery vertical. Next slide. But before that, I want to quickly give everyone just a brief overview of New Energy Nexus as a reminder. So New Energy Nexus, we're the world's leading clean energy ecosystem builder. We are across 12 countries, and we provide capital, tools, and connections to climate entrepreneurs, from startups in Southeast Asia all the way to women-led distributors in rural Uganda. Our vision is 100% clean energy for 100% in the people for the shortest time possible. And we want to support diverse clean energy entrepreneurs to drive innovation and build equity in the global clean energy economy. We're locally led, but globally connected ecosystem, and we continue to push our goal of servicing and supporting 100,000 entrepreneurs this next decade. And what's really interesting and exciting about our work is that our definition of an entrepreneur is broad. It can be a battery company coming out of Stanford all the way to a residential solar company in the Philippines. We include a broad spectrum of entrepreneurs to uplift them to be able to succeed in the markets that they're operating in. Next slide, Kirk. So to give you a quick overview, we are, as I mentioned before, global, from the US all the way to Southeast Asia, East Asia. What's really unique about this organization is that we have local teams in each of these jurisdictions supporting different mandates with different funders and supporters. And the cross-pollination, the insights, the harvesting, the learnings are often cross-shared between borders. And our whole entire goal is to be able to more efficiently deploy programs that can support entrepreneurs on the ground much faster and more efficiently. Next slide. So what is Just Batteries? Just Batteries is one of our newest verticals, which is supporting startups across the entire battery value chain, from extraction to battery recycling, while also shaping the innovation, while shaping the ecosystems that they're operating in. We supported over 90 startups to date with 5 programs and distributed $9 million across 90 companies supporting, working on batteries. As we know, batteries are the linchpin of the energy transition, and they enable the shift to 100% clean energy economy and are the missing piece of the puzzle. How we build the industry is just as important as how fast we scale it. Batteries aren't the future, they're now. And so I'm excited to bring on Kirk McDonald to take this on and bring on to speak about his program and all the developments that we've had. Just a quick some housekeeping rules. We are actually going to be finishing at the hour. I know the invite went out for an hour and a half, but we will be finishing at 1/2 past, and we'll leave about 15 minutes for Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it in the Q&A box. I will facilitate that section in the end. With that, I want to thank you guys for your time today and your interest in New Energy Nexus and our Just Batteries work, particularly our Australia's Time to Charge. Kirk, over to you.
Thanks very much, Andrew. I'm very much looking forward to speaking today, and thank you all for joining. It's a very exciting time in batteries in Australia in particular, and I've got some very latest information to share with you about that. It's amazing the news that's coming out daily here. So I'll be joined today by the winner of our last Innovation Challenge, Carl van Berendonck, and my colleague at EnergyLab. It's the partner organisation that we deliver this program with in Australia, Derick. He'll be talking about the incubator that we currently have running. It feels like we're spinning a lot of plates at the moment, Derick. But let's go. So that's me. I run the program. Australia has a huge role in the supply chain, and geopolitically, we're seeing a lot of movement at the moment. I think the less said about that, the better. But the opportunity for Australia is huge. The reason I put that photo up on the right is to remind me to do a small acknowledgement of country here in Australia. That's something that we do to acknowledge Aboriginal heritage. I'm coming to you from the land of the Gadigal people in eastern Sydney today, but those people are not that. They are the local people, the Tiwal people of Kalgoorlie area, where the Liontown mine is currently in the throes of getting to production of lithium. And the agreement that they're making there is an agreement to mine underground rather than do open cut to provide a better outcome for the local people. And that's come with a lot of local job sharing and a lot of local renewable energy generation opportunities and other services opportunities for the local people there. So very much a win-win-win, and it's something that we're very focused on trying to deliver through all of our program work. So the bigger picture here for Australia, and you'll be seeing in the press probably more and more over the coming months, is that Australia is intending to be a renewable superpower, particularly with a pathway of green metals. Green metals are things like iron and copper, steel eventually. But the point about them being green is that they're made with green electrons. To do that in Australia, we'll need a 7 to 20 times increase in generation capacity compared to what we currently generate in the country, and that will all have to be done with renewable technologies. So we'll go from raw exports to embedded decarbonisation. Some stats say we could be responsible for up to 8% of the world's decarbonisation if we pursue this to its maximum extent. Those green electrons, of course, then are very important for battery making. Battery making, once we get to steady state for the amount of storage that we need in the world, is probably going to be on the order of the amount of energy that we currently use for recycling steel once we get to 300 or so terawatt hours of storage, which is just the current best forecast. So a great opportunity for Australia is to lean into the green electrons, the massive renewable energy generation system that we build, and use those electrons to do both battery recycling and then the remanufacturing of those batteries. So it's time to deploy. It's not just a policy tailwind, it's a policy tailed gale. We're in the second term of a federal government that has come back with a massively increased majority. They have 90 seats in our parliament of only 150. So what we're expecting, in fact, is rather than a second term, and terms here are around about 3 years, probably a third term. So they've already made $65 billion in federal incentive promises in their first term of government, and now it's time to spend that. And I work with a range of colleagues in the advocacy space trying to see that that happens. Another interesting thing that's coming for Australia is a decision on COP31 with the South Pacific. So if that comes off, we will have the eyes of the world focused on Australia, and it's a huge opportunity for us to really lean into the renewably powered superpower economy that we would like to be. So highlights of those federal incentives are that there's $20 billion for transmission, that's the Rewiring the Nation Fund, $23 billion in production tax credits, about half for hydrogen, green hydrogen, I should say, and about half for critical minerals production tax credits. Well, that's the Future Made in Australia program. And there's a program called the $15 billion National Reconstruction Fund. We've spent the last 30 years running down manufacturing in this country, but that's something that the West has done generally. So it's an attempt to restructure that. There's about $3 billion on that specifically stated for renewables and renewables production. And then finally, we're expecting somewhere between $20 to $50 billion in investment and production tax credits around that green metals opportunity as well. Some of that will be to do with the green hydrogen that's already part of Future Mode in Australia potentially, but there's a huge amount given that iron ore is one of our top 3 exports at the moment, and it makes up with coal and gas $200 billion in annual revenue for the country at the moment. We know all of those things are going away, the coal and the gas hopefully as soon as possible, but the iron ore also. There's many competing sources for that around the world, and the sooner that we can embed green electrons in that and export it as either iron, raw iron, or perhaps even steel, the better. So the key battery programs, the production tax credits that I talked about for critical minerals, that's upstream in the value chain here in Australia. There's $500 million for battery manufacturing specifically in Australia, and that's really a starting point. The goal is gigafactories. There's a picture of one there on the right. Those cost between $5 and $8 billion, depending on the scale of the gigafactory. And in a bit of a moment, I'll tell you that I think we should build 4 of them. So you can see that that fund isn't going to get them built, but it will get the businesses started that can seek the capital to get them built. And that will be a mix of private, retirement capital and government funding, and then overseas partners, we think. And then a recent announcement is that we'll have a $1.2 billion critical minerals reserve. So that will help us work our way through the troughs of commodity cycles and take advantage of the peaks that then follow. So Supercharge Australia is the vehicle, the project in Australia by which we seek to deliver the change that's required and the support for startups to grow the lithium battery value chain in Australia. We're trying to support, 150 startups. We're bringing US and global expertise to Australia. And of course, with our upstream expertise in the mining industry, we're sharing that expertise with the world. We're also some of the world's great innovators. We have not been great at commercializing technologies historically, but we're aiming to make a difference in that with this program. And we're obviously trying to improve Australian policy to make this happen faster. If we are successful with the kinds of programs that we're talking about, we could increase battery demand in the Australian economy by 20 times to 2030. And that would change the economic case, allow us to have 4 gigafactories across the country. The most recent innovation challenge that we ran, Retrofit Nation, was our insight from our first innovation challenge that vehicle retrofits was a way to accelerate, aggregate and bring forward battery demand to get to that 20 times. It was launched last year and completed at the end of last year. And then Kyle went on a trip with us to California as the winner of the program. The people that helped us launch it are a couple of heroes in my book. Danny Kennedy, I shouldn't miss, but he's the former CEO of New Energy Nexus. Luann Atkinson, the CEO of Renewable Metals, unfortunately couldn't join us today. We were very hopeful that she might be able to, but couldn't. They won the first innovation challenge and are building a demonstration plan in Western Australia right now to recycle batteries with a novel technique that will make the process much more environmentally sound and also more financially possible across all of the battery chemistries. She speaks very much in agreement of this current theme that Australia has really got a time to charge on right now, and they're very much pursuing that in Western Australia. And then Lex Forsyth is the CEO of Janus Electric. That's one of his trucks that you can see in the picture there. They very much on the front foot as well. They've just listed on the ASX with a $9 million listing. They've just taken out an AFR ESG award in the last couple of days in the transport sector. And it's an example of what you can do if you really just push on it. From our perspective, we think that if we were to retrofit half the Australian vehicle fleet, this is one of those moonshot moments that we have, we can shift that battery demand locally to the point where we're able to build cells here in Australia and put them in our own vehicles. The 20 times is about 1.3 terawatt hours. Once you're starting to get into terawatt hours, gigafactories start to make sense. And until you're in terawatt hours, they don't. But you have about 10 million vehicles here that we could retrofit, starting with those truck fleets. About 80,000 of the ones that you're looking at there, and Lex has got $9 million to go and chase them. And obviously, there's a much larger opportunity there too. It's about $700 billion worth of vehicle imports, because that's all we do in Australia at the moment, a little bit of assembly, but mostly imports, that we would disrupt in this process. And there's $300 billion of margin there to cover the costs of whatever facilities might need to be built, but this is largely a distributed process. So it's very exciting. It would potentially save 2 years worth of carbon emissions, and it utilizes the embedded carbon that's in these vehicles already. It's much, much cheaper. The vehicles that Lex is working on at the moment have a healthy profit margin for him and the energy business that he's building in supporting these vehicles, whilst they're saving 20 cents per kilometre for the fleet operators. So again, it's win, 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 win. I can't add up the number of times that you win. And then the last one I'll point out, and this is probably the last here I'll mention in particular in relation to this slide, it's the workforce in Australia. We have about 35 or 40,000 ICE mechanics short in Australia, internal combustion engine mechanics short. We're not going to pick that up. They don't get paid enough to work in our cities at the moment. So what we're saying is that we should accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles. We should upskill about a fifth of that workforce, of which there's about 120,000 at the moment, get them doing retrofits, get them ready for the post-ICE future, and get them into the ecosystem at the same time as revitalising our vehicle fleet. So the businesses that were involved in that innovation challenge are a range of businesses, all operating in the retrofit sector, except for one, and all of them operating in different verticals. Australian EVs doing light commercial vehicles, E-Class Marine doing outboard motors. Sorry, I've only got one screen here. I'm going to need to move some controls around so I can read my own slide, pardon me. Electromotive doing buses, and one of the principals there is actually in ARENA, the renewable startup funding agency of the government. So if he can't organise some startup funding for himself, we know we have huge problems. EPCA in Western Australia doing haul trucks, so 100-ton haul trucks running around in the mining fleet. There's about 5,000 of those that can be converted in Australia, and 10 times that globally that can have the same done. Evans Electric, it's not just about batteries, it's about motors as well. So Evans Electric builds what's called a pancake motor, an axial flux motor, chasing e-axles for road trains. They've just announced a project where they're doing some very lightweight aviation motors with a project with Gyabeng here in Australia. Very exciting. Jaunt does EV retrofits historically on Porsches and Land Rovers. Classic vehicles, but they're moving very much into the volume market and seeking to launch a program to do a plug-in hybridization of the very large dual cab ute and four-wheel drive aftermarket segment in Australia, on which we currently spend about $8 billion per annum just on roof racks and bull bars and all those sorts of things. So a huge market there for them potentially. Porsche at Net Zero Engineering Solutions is bringing a bidirectional charging grid solution both into the country and building networks to do that. Excuse me. Reva has an in-wheel motor that they're seeking to commercialise that will provide a plug-in hybridisation, but doing it through wheels and a battery that sits in the boot of your car. It could be as cheap as a $5,000 retrofit that would take away much of the percentage of motion that's driven by the ICE vehicle and replace it with electric motion. Project Midas was our exception. They're chasing a graphene anode for batteries that will dramatically increase the efficiency of batteries and therefore their energy density, doing some testing in the United States as we speak. Veepower, you'll hear from Kyle in a moment, so I'll let him explain his solution. And Smart Farms, looking to help farms electrify and understand that they're doing the solar generation, but the vehicles often are moving many, many kilometres across the properties here in Australia. The farms are very large. So they have a solution to help them move that power to the vehicles. And then Oz Electric Vehicles doing small vehicle retrofits and upgrades of existing battery-powered vehicles that might have come to second life for their vehicles. So I said that's the last hero, but there is another one here. I'll bring Kyle into the conversation. Kyle van Berendonck is the founder of Veepower. He has been bootstrapping this business for a little while now as a consultant in the electric vehicle space, and brings the expertise of probably 20 or 30 years across you and your team, I would imagine, Kyle, in the sector and understanding how hard it is to get electric vehicles to market and to have them supportable. And that's the reason that they won the challenge. They have a product that can be the brain that sits in the middle of any retrofit of any vehicle and make sure that we're delivering not just a last minute solution, but something that's truly supportable over the next 5 to 10 years of life of that retrofitted vehicle. So Kyle, would you like to take us through the trip to California that we took you on to make the ecosystem and to make some peers in the retrofit industry?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much, Kirk, and nice to meet you all this morning in the participants over there. Could we go to the next slide, please, Kirk?
Absolutely.
So, as Kirk mentioned, we won the Supercharge Australia Retrofit Nation #2. It's a bit of a mouthful last year, and we went. We planned a trip to California. Next slide, please, Kirk. Oh, sorry. I'll talk about the solution first.
Please.
So our product is the Veepower V-Pilot. So Veepower is a new ecosystem that we've been working on, and the V-Pilot specifically is a product that solves one of the most difficult problems in electrification. And that difficult problem is that when you look at any number of vehicle retrofit projects or even new vehicle projects, traditionally with ICE vehicles, you would have a core vehicle and the engine and the transmission and things like this wouldn't change much. But when you're talking about BEVs, you have a wide diversity of powertrain configurations, battery size configurations, physical and chemical limitations. And that leads to, for example, one truck having a configuration maybe 150 kilowatt hours and another truck having a configuration maybe 600 kilowatt hours in the same volume. This means that manufacturers are doing a lot of custom builds these days and not getting so much off the shelf, which is a real challenge for OEMs, and that's why we're not seeing the that's why what we're seeing is a lot of different small businesses, particularly retrofitting vehicles to be specific for purpose, right? So what the V-Pilot is it's a control system that goes into the vehicle, and it provides the entire software platform that controls the vehicle so that manufacturers can pick their own components to build their vehicles, and they can pick components that are specifically suitable for purpose, for example, for a mining application, for a garbage collecting application and things like this. Could we go to the next slide, please?
Next slide. Sure.
Yeah.
This is the fun one. Do you want to describe it, or shall I? I'm happy to.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the trip that we took Kyle on. It timed to be in conjunction with San Francisco Climate Week and an event in Los Angeles called the Advanced Clean Transport Expo. So the trip was to fly into San Francisco, do Climate Week, and we have some pictures, and Kyle can talk to you about a couple of those that we went to. And then why did we make it a road trip? So about halfway down on the right, you see a little town called Porterville, and there's a business there that has a contract to retrofit 1,000 garbage trucks in Ghana, of all places, out of a small country town in California. And so they're electrifying those vehicles. They have a team over there in Ghana working on the ground, and a facility there in California where they're making sure the solutions work on both sides of the planet. And they're looking to grow and build more of these opportunities. So first of all, it was an opportunity for Kyle to potentially sell a product into them, but also to see that there's an ecosystem there and some more commercial validation that this is a real opportunity. So a bit hard to fly to Porterville. We had to drive. Of course, that meant we did stop in at Yosemite on the way, and it was a great privilege to share Yosemite with our colleagues along the way. Then down to Los Angeles for the Advanced Clean Transport Expo, massive, down at Anaheim near Disneyland. Expos here, if you've all been to them, imagine them times 10. And then we flew out of San Diego, where we could see one of the very earliest proponents of the EV retrofit sector, who still operate down just north of San Diego today. So Carl, do you want to talk us through these pictures?
Yeah, perfect. So we started our trip over in Palo Alto, and so that's us catching up with Range Energy at the top left. And what was really encouraging about that is that basically, if we brought our ready product with us to the USA, they would have taken it off our hands just there and then. But we still got quite a bit of work to do. But that was really encouraging. And then as we worked around Berkeley Way and over to Porterville, we caught up with a couple other companies, and then eventually Zeronox, which is there the second across. And then working our way down to Anaheim, where we went to the ACT Expo. And in the ACT Expo, there was hundreds of electric mobility companies, different electrification, battery solutions, things like this, electric trailers. And so what happened in Anaheim is we went into this convention center and talked with people for about 10 hours straight. And when we would come out after every evening, I'd get back to the hotel and just like empty my pockets of business cards, and it would just like cover the entire coffee table, because there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mobility opportunities there in the US for component manufacturers like us, and everyone wanted what we had. So that was very encouraging. After the ACT Expo, we circled back down to San Diego, where we caught up actually with a classic retrofitter, EV West. That's Michael from EV West down there, and he's got a couple of Corvettes and I think Firebirds and other things down there that we saw. We saw quite a lot he's got.
For the skateboarders in the on the call, that's Tony Hawk's car that he's standing next to.
So Tony Hawk's car there, and I think he had some ex-Canoe and some bits and pieces that he'd salvaged out of the valley. But he was actually very interested in helping us break into the US retro classic retro market with the V-Pilot. And we did also get the opportunity to talk to the Australian consulate there, the Trade and Investment Commission, which was very constructive because they're doing a lot in the US as well. So that was it was a great circuit, and it really expanded our kind of appreciation of America and the market there.
Great, thanks, Carl.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yep. So the Veepower is still looking for an investor for the V-Pilot to bring it to the next stage. That next stage for us is our hardware has been finalized, and approximately half of the software stack has been finalized, but we want to spend a bit more time on it towards the end of this year. So we're looking for an Australian-based, climate-focused deep tech investor, and we're looking for about $500,000 to finish development of the software platform, which has a component on the vehicle and a component on the web, and also to get better pricing on our hardware so that we can go global with that. Cool. Back to you, Kirk.
Awesome, Kyle. Thank you. What the insight from our perspective was, we have a small amount of cash that we can use as a prize for participants in the Innovation Challenge. And whilst cash is very welcome and was welcomed by the first cohort, the prizes that we distributed in the first Supercharge Australia Innovation Challenge, I think what we really wanted to do was to outsize the outcome. And we felt that by taking advantage of Nexus global network and the relationships that we have in California, which were in particular very relevant to the transportation industry, that we could take Kyle on a really meaningful trip and really leverage that small amount of cash into an experience that broadened the growth opportunities and pathways for Kyle immensely. And I'm hopeful you agree that we managed to achieve that, Kyle. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing where you go from here and looking forward to helping you achieve that. Okay, so next is my colleague Derick. He delivers the program work at our partner EnergyLab, as I mentioned at the start of the call. He's going to give us all an update on the incubator that's live at the moment. So the Innovation Challenge is any company in the value chain, any stage of maturity, a very compressed program. The incubator is a longer program focused on early stage companies. So over to you, Derick. Looking forward to hearing about it.
Thanks, Kirk. And yeah, hi everyone, and nice to meet you all, and really excited to give an update on the current incubator. So the current incubator it actually kicked off in April this year. It was launched during the Innovation Challenge event. That was last year. We opened a special of interest the following week, and we've had a very strong cohort. We've kicked off things from April, and we are in the 10th week so far. We have about 2 more weeks to finish the incubator program. It's focused on the early stage startups, and as Kirk mentioned, it's very broad, open to across the whole value chain. And the idea for the incubator was, I mean, with the innovation challenges, which runs for just 6 weeks, we don't really have time to really delve deep into some of the business acumen with the startup. So this was an opportunity to do more of that during for the incubator. And as usual, we have our uh, tailored workshops. We have our mentorship with industry experts, as well as our networking. And you can see some of the programs that we've run so far. Some are very technical and also parts based on financial and also the business acumen. So that's that's an overview of the incubator so far. Next slide, Tech. As I mentioned, we have a very innovative cohort in this current incubator. From top left, I'll just quickly run through what they are doing. We have Adoxima, and Adoxima is making high purity metal oxides, which can be used for battery separators. And the good thing about this technology is that it has clean hydrogen as a byproduct. And we also have carbofides that's led by Medad, and Medad is also inventing a carbon coating technology that can be used for sustainable anode materials. And these materials would help enhance battery performance. Now, Innovotech is a very unique one here. They are just leveraging existing technology to bring battery cell manufacturing here in Australia. Lion Energy is also reconditioning, recycling, as well as transforming lithium battery waste into reusable energy solutions. And they are based in Western Australia, so they can really leverage batteries from the mining industry as well. We have DOTS, and DOTS is based in New Zealand, and Fiona and the team, they're actually developing high-powered electric propulsion systems that can go into any boat of your choice. And Kirk spoke about Portia, Business Zero Engineering Solutions. She's also providing bidirectional charging solutions for EVs. Noise End is also helping to reduce noise in battery energy storage systems. And Power Blocks are also making energy storage for better and safer communities, and they are also very beautiful. We have sustainable lithium cells that's also led by Andrew, and Andrew is also focused on second life batteries to make usable energy storage for Australians. And then Voltavit just raised their pre-seed round of 850,000, which is very exciting. They're also engineering separators together with electrode materials to improve battery life as well as reduce waste. So, I mean, this is the overview of the cohort. You can see it's very broad, most offering around midstream as well as downstream. And it's really exciting, and they are very innovative and doing some wonderful things in the battery space. Next slide, Kirk. Our next milestone is the pitch day, where I really invite you guys to come over and then hear from the startups and see what they've been working on so far. We'll be on the 10th of July, and it will be strictly online. So you can register and join the session to hear more from the cohort and what they've been up to so far. Next slide, Kirk. Well, so far, I mean, we have just 2 weeks to go, and basically these are some of our reflections, which we think is very important. The startups think will be very important for them to move their innovations going forward. Ecosystem engagement is key. Having test beds where they can test some of their inventions, because as you would see, most of these technologies are just some parts of the whole battery system, having a battery of a gigafactory. So they need to really test some of their systems. Investment is also very important, and having partners or businesses who can really test some of their products will also be key for traction. Also, because these are technical funders, I mean, commercial storytelling is very important for them, helping them to be more investment ready. Also, because of what they do, we also need, I mean, feeding into the test bed, we also need the manufacturing here in Australia, where they can also manufacture stuff they can ship the products out to feed into the bigger ecosystem. So that's the whole idea. And these are some of the things that we think will be very important for the startups. Thanks, Kirk. Next slide. Thanks. I'll hand over to Kirk. You're on mute, Kirk.
Thank you. So what's next for Supercharge Australia? We're about to launch another innovation challenge. It's that time of the year, so the third innovation challenge will be launched shortly. We're just working through the marketing material for that. I think from the perspective of the second innovation challenge that we're just talking about, the Kyle 1, we still have some work to do around sharing the data from that, which we'll get onto over the course of the next weeks and months. Particularly a call for how we might help the ecosystem grow from here. So there's some regulatory enablement that needs to occur around standards and warranties and certification if we're going to take this very seriously. We need to mobilize capital and perhaps establish some retrofit precincts. So there are some facilities. James Electric has a facility up on the Central Coast. Jaunt in Melbourne has one of the few engine testing facilities in the Southern Hemisphere that should be saved and repurposed for this activity. And then finally, and local content is a big part of the funding environment for Future Made in Australia and other initiatives. We'd like to see government fleets in particular procuring retrofitted vehicles from Australian suppliers. And then from there, of course, as we get good at it and build systems for it, we haven't really talked about climate too much on this call, but we are currently on a 3-degree pathway by the end of the century. My sense is that we're going to have to do a lot more drastic things as those years progress, and retrofits might well be a solution for that. And if Australia is leading the way with its automotive skill set, which it has from many, many years of automotive manufacturing, then we can offer these solutions around the world, and particularly to our local region of 800 million people to our immediate north, going through the fastest energy transition in history, being Southeast Asia, let alone Africa coming online as well. From there, we are doing some more fundraising, and we're also trying to do more fundraising on behalf of startups. So we have a program at the moment that we're trying to get up, a pilot for a thing called, or at least an Australian version of Cal Testbed. We're calling it Oz Testbed. But basically in California, the programs that New Energy Nexus runs there on behalf of the Californian ratepayer are far more generous and broader in utility to startups. At the early stage in Australia, we keep putting hurdles in front of startups. We need to clear the way for them. And part of that's to do with money, but part of it's also to do with introductions and training and testing opportunities. So Cal Testbed is kind of the second half of the grants program, first half being Cal Seed. It's a series of testing vouchers that are made available to startups to take to existing facilities across California. And there are many. That's all the University of California labs, any national labs in California. So they've done a huge amount of work in aggregating access to those. And it creates these serendipitous environments of where startups are coming out of the private sector and back into the university sector, reintroducing their commercial innovations back into a research environment, and building new relationships and forging new outcomes that can accelerate the growth of these technologies into our energy marketplaces. So a huge number of startups supported, $45 million in funding awarded, and some excellent outcomes on diversity and representation of women in that workforce. When I say generosity, up to $1 million in value, so about $700,000 in cash goes to startups as part of CalSeed, and then about $300,000 worth of testing vouchers. And you compare that to the 20,000s, the 50,000s, even the 100,000s here as we've started to push up into more meaningful amounts of money. Those are still matched. These are not. These are pure grants. And that means that if you don't have the capital to back your idea, you don't need it. You can back your idea with words and ideas and deeds, and it brings the most diverse and best outcomes to the ecosystem in California, and that's what we'd like to do here. So keep your eye out for that. We're pushing very hard and hopeful to see a pilot get up on that, particularly with the current cohort of startups in the incubator coming to a conclusion. Of course, the first thing, and it's always about the startups, is, and we're very happy to make introductions, is please take opportunities to find out more of them, about them, and to invest in the startups. And of course, the work that we do as not-profits needs support as well. I do feel like a startup fairly hand to mouth often, as we're swapping hats from program delivery to fundraising. So support us at Supercharge Australia and continuing the work here. Next is doing great work in the Asia Pacific, as Andrew highlighted on the call, and of course globally as well. Our new CEO is based in Amsterdam. Europe is just north of Africa, where there's a huge amount of work being done by the next global team. So if you'd prefer to get involved in deep tech startups here in Australia and supporting programs here, there's an opportunity for you to do that here. Or if you'd like to get involved in broader opportunities globally, Next can very much help deliver those outcomes. I think with that, we're on to the Q&A, Andrew.
Awesome, Kirk. Thank you, Derick, Kyle, Kirk. That was fantastic. I'd love to leave it to some of the audience here for some questions. And we have one question in the box from Sam. Sam's asking about the retrofit testing facilities, if we could share any of the names and links. Maybe Kirk or Derick, that might be to you.
So retrofit testing facilities, good question. They don't exist apart from the one that's down at the Jaunt facility in Melbourne, and that's in Scoresby. I can share an address with the call participants afterwards if you like, but you can also just look them up online. I'll post a link to Jaunt. It kind of depends. If you'd like to jump on, I can unmute you and you could share a little bit more about what you're seeking specifically, and we can help to guide you with that. I think I've just unmuted you, Sam. If you'd like to share a little more.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can.
Just about this retrofit, Nanja, I like to test some retrofit in some of the enclosed facility, the safe facility. So in Australia, particularly in Western Australia, if you know something, please let me know. That's how it's about.
Okay. I don't have one on hand in Western Australia, but there are a number of companies operating there, a couple there that weren't in the challenge, and there's a particular mining focus for activities in Western Australia. I know the government's just built a facility just north of Perth for electrification testing, and there's some opportunity for retrofit testing out at that facility as well. So I can share that with you later, Sam.
And you said one more thing in Melbourne, right? Something like John. What is that one? John? Sorry.
Yeah, Jaunt's manufacturing facility in Melbourne is in Scoresby, and it's a
facility. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm after. Excellent.
Yeah, to share a little more about that, it used to be the local branch of a global gearbox manufacturing company. So they actually have some fully computerized engine testing facilities in there that can test your innovation throughout the entire range of operation of the vehicle without having to actually take it out onto the road.
Okay, good. Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that. And one more question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Just I have seen Next, actually you guys are supporting Asia Pacific, okay? And there is a competition happening there. But I am from Australia, but my product is more relevant to Asia. Basically, it's for the light vehicle like a tuk-tuk or auto rickshaws, okay? Is there anything I can apply from here to that the Asia Pacific Next competition?
One of the roles that we see that we have is to strengthen connections between the region and particularly via the Next offices that we have around the region. There's about half a dozen up through Southeast Asia. So again, that sounds like we should probably have a call and talk about what you'd like to share and work out who the most appropriate people are, and we can do that through the network there.
Okay, good. Yeah, no worries. I'll contact you, sir, directly. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sam.
All good. All good.
Thanks
Cheers.
a lot, Sam. All right, Kirk, we had another question for you from Linnell Johnson. Great to see Second
Perfect.
Life. Great to see Second Life battery solutions. However, what Australian manufacturers are looking for, interested in, are making new batteries with the product. We have worked with Andrew before, but they don't have the assembly solution. Any thoughts, Kirk?
Yes. I think the answer to these questions is always yes. Part of the chicken and egg problem is that the market in Australia, the domestic market, is necessarily small. We have a relatively small population. So one of the reasons we looked at retrofits at scale was to try and aggregate and bring forward that demand so that we can change the maths about producing new batteries here in Australia. I think if we're in any way successful with the kind of scale we've been advocating for, then it will be a mixture of both imported and then eventually Australian batteries that and cells particularly that are involved in those solutions. Interestingly, Derick, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but we have a startup in the current cohort. If people noticed, he's actually trying to build a cell making facility here in Australia simply by importing the cell making technology and indeed the engineering team directly out of China to pick it up and drop it here in a location in Australia, just to remove any risk at all of any mistranslation or other potential problems in particular that we've seen, for example, when we try to build the lithium hydroxide processing plants further upstream in the lithium battery value chain and just get to market sooner. I think that's a highly commendable idea and it needs support. And it's the kind of thing that should occur from a nation building capacity as much as from a commercial profitability perspective. So Derick, did you want to share any more about that?
So I think you've hit the nail on the head. Yeah, that's Innovatech, which we think it's very great. I mean, that's the unique technology that I mentioned. They are very different from the rest of the cohorts. They're just taking existing technology and just replicating it here because that's faster. Of course, that means that they need a huge investment. So I guess that's also the challenge with it. And you've hit the nail on the head. Yeah, we need governments also need to really support such a mandate.
Yep, and we have people further down the value chain in the pack making and in the BMS sector. It's the cells that we don't have. So if Dylan and his project can be successful, then we can start to address that problem holistically. How's that, Linnell? Would you like to speak? I can take you off mute.
Yes, it would be fantastic because there's a whole lot. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Apart from obviously standing batteries, which is a large use of recycled EV batteries, the whole boating industry comes under that because we're sort of less than the voltage of a car. Mm-hmm. So very, very suitable. But yeah, getting the batteries manufactured has proven. Having said that, I do have a prototype battery that Andrew created from Second Life, and it's just about to be hybrided in a 37-foot cruiser, and we're going to be testing that to see how much petrol we can save by having a hybrid system, and they're all Second Life cells. And
fantastic. So will we see that on Sydney Harbour?
Well, we're down at Shell Harbour. You'll see. We'll certainly be videoing the result, but that was our hope. It's incredibly suitable for the recreational marine market.
Well, there's more and more Second Life availability, so that can keep growing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Linnell.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Linnell. Got a question from Angus McDonald. So she's got two questions. With the influx of cheap Chinese EVs, how much local demand can there actually be for batteries? And then the second question being, Kirk, is there anything thinking about working with the likes of NEO, who already have mature battery swapping tech for EVs, to produce local batteries for them?
Great questions. I think I mean, that's really the reason we focused in the innovation challenge on the theme of the larger commercial vehicles. We're in a little bit of a race, if you like, between the learning curve on passenger vehicle retrofits coming down fast enough to get to a price competitive point with a new Chinese EV. And I think at the moment that, the new Chinese EV is probably going to win that race. We're all aware of the prices that those vehicles are available of in China, certainly not here at the moment, but I would expect those will reduce here too over time. I think initially, no, but when you look at trucks, those 80,000 trucks that Lex is targeting at the moment at Janus Electric, at the buses, there's about 50 or 60,000 buses. The light commercial vehicles, hundreds of thousands of them. And they're all doing duty cycles that are eminently suitable for electrification. We don't all need to go 1,000 kilometres in our utes, particularly when they're being truly used for commercial purposes. There are a lot of back-to-base deliveries where they're only doing tens or hundreds of kilometres a day. So I think it's those sectors that we can really focus on, get on that learning curve, and then will we get an answer to a cheap passenger vehicle retrofit? I don't know, but we might. And then Neo is great with battery swap. CATL also has a battery swap solution, again, more focused on the heavy commercial vehicles. And certainly, again, not to hammer on about Janus, but I know that they are in touch with CATL and particularly working with them around that. Whilst we're in California, another serendipitous meeting we held with a German technologist who's been operating in Beijing for 20 years. He built a light commercial truck, so a 4 or 5 ton truck battery swap system, which is a side loader like Lexus side loaders are. The batteries are only about a quarter of the size of Lexus, so there's a bit of upsizing that's required for that. But they have, I think from memory, 700 or 800 trucks rolling around Beijing at the moment using those battery swap facilities. The opportunities for collaboration with Neo and others are immense.
Thank you, Kirk. And also just by way of, I'm usually based in Shanghai, and we do have some connections with NEO, particularly their showcase center and their innovation center in Shanghai. So we often take folks who are looking to better understand the battery tech and the whole sort of innovation ecosystem around NEO, which is very unique. And so happy to connect on that front. Any more questions from the audience?
I just put Angus on the speaker list. If you'd like to unmute, you can expand on that if you had any thoughts, Angus. And congrats on Merck too.
Thanks, Kirk. Yeah, like Linnell, my interest is marine and the maritime space, and I think when I look at battery swapping, what I think of is you need more batteries than you have vehicles. So there's an opportunity for, whilst each vehicle might be shipped to Australia with a battery, there's the potential for looking after those batteries locally. But I mean, NEO might vertically integrate and do that themselves. But I am just, boats are an obvious place. But again, for us, we need to marinize things, we need to take things to a level of certification that we don't. It kind of goes beyond what cars do. So it is a little tricky. But no, exciting days, and I love the work that you guys are doing. So thank you for doing it.
Thanks very much, Angus. I think battery swapping too, just to riff off that for one final second, also helps with the grid sustainability perspective. It'd be nice to be able to fast charge everything at 5 minutes, but we can't get the electrons to the chargers to do that. So particularly with the large vehicles, battery swapping is a way for us to get more batteries into the fleet sooner whilst charging capacity ramps up across the grid, if it ever needs to get that high.
I think Lex's example of doing a battery swap in 4 minutes for a truck versus 20 minutes of diesel fueling is actually a really nice one.
Absolutely. Andrew, back to you, I think.
Yeah, if Johnson, we can do battery swap approach up to 10 kilowatts. Very cool. All right, so I think we will close it out here. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for attending this Just Batteries webinar. Do reach out to myself either on LinkedIn or Kirk or anybody here on the team, if you guys want to learn more about Supercharge Australia, Energy Nexus in our work on the global front, as well as in the Asia Pacific. So with that, I want to thank you guys for your time today, and look forward to speaking to you soon. Oh, and one last thing, we're going to be doing these monthly webinars, continue to push our programming and updates on the industry because it's moving so fast. So I'm excited for that. Do subscribe to our newsletter, and we'll actually send a follow-up email with this deck, with a subscription to the newsletter, so you guys can stay up to date with all things New Energy Nexus and EnergyLab. So thank you guys for your time today and time to charge. See you guys. Have a great one.
Thank you all very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.